Welcome to the Mindful Practice Podcast, a space for physicians navigating burnout, identity shifts, and career change without pressure or judgment. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks, a board-certified internal medicine physician, coach, and writer. Here we talk honestly about what it means to build a sustainable career and a life beyond medicine and survival.
Welcome to the Mindful Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks, a board-certified internal medicine physician, entrepreneur, and coach. At this point in the series, we've talked about burnout, clarity, and pivoting. So now the question becomes, how do you actually move forward? Because insight alone doesn't change anything. You can understand your burnout, you can gain clarity, you can even decide to pivot and still stay in the same exact place. Execution is where most people stall, not because they're incapable, but because they're trying to move forward without a clear structure. So let's simplify this. Let's talk about the 30, 60, 90-day execution framework. If you want a next step that's real, not just inspirational, let's borrow this simple timeline. The first 30 days, you're going to stabilize and define, clarify your lane or career path, choose a target direction, and reduce your current overwhelm so you can think. This is where you write your direction statement in one sentence. Over the next 60 days, you build evidence. You have conversations like informational interviews. You are networking with other colleagues or recruiters in the industry that you're interested in. You translate your skills. You do a per diem or test fit and collect proof that this direction is viable. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is signal. Then the next 90 days, you commit and package. You update your materials like your curriculum vitae and LinkedIn page. You apply selectively to positions in the industry that you're interested in. You interview, negotiate, and create your bridge plan. Execution becomes much easier when you know what season you're in. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a repeatable process, and that process starts with direction. Not a vague idea of what you want, but something specific enough to act on. Instead of saying, I want something different, you define, I want a role with more flexibility and less volume. Or, I want to move in a space where I'm using my clinical knowledge in a more analytical way. That level of clarity allows you to take action. Now the next step is consistency. This is where most people overcomplicate things. They think they need to do everything at once. Research every option. Update everything, including your LinkedIn profile, your curriculum vitae. Make a full plan. And because that feels overwhelming, many people do nothing. So instead, I want you to focus on one aligned action per week. Here are some examples so you don't get stuck. If you're in the 30-day stabilize phase, one action could be deciding your non-negotiables, such as no more than X number of weekends, or no more than Y number of call shifts, or at least Z number of recovery days. If you're in the 60-day build evidence phase, one action could be scheduling one informational interview with a physician in the industry that you're interested in, like utilization management, pharma, biotech, bioinformatics, quality, medical devices, or consulting, and asking, what does success look like in this role? What is a typical day like? What do you like about your job? And what do you not like about your job? What are the challenges? What are some strengths and weaknesses? It's important to gather that evidence so that you have a clear idea of the role that you want to pivot into. If you're in the 90-day commitment phase, one action could be tailoring your resume for a specific job type, or submitting 1 to 3 high fit applications instead of 30 random ones. You could also tailor your LinkedIn profile to gather more traffic or recruiter interest. Notice the theme: small, specific, and repeatable actions. These are SMART goals. That could be updating your curriculum vitae, having a conversation or informational interview, exploring one opportunity. Not 10 things, just one thing. Start simple and build over time, because consistency builds momentum and progress. Let me give you another real example. A physician who wants to transition into a non-clinical role. They start small. They update their curriculum vitae to reflect their broader skill set. They connect with someone already working in a role that they're interested in. They explore one opportunity. Maybe they apply for a part-time or per diem role. Then they do it again and again. Over time, small actions compound. This is how change actually happens. Not one big move, but consistent strategic steps. You don't need intensity. You need continuity. You need to be persistent. Most physicians try to fix their career in one weekend, then crash, then avoid it for a month. Continuity is what builds identity and confidence. One action per week, every week, until you have momentum. Now let's talk about mindset, because execution is not just about action. It's also about how you think while you're taking action. Now, when you're doing a career pivot, you will have moments of doubt. You will question whether you're making the right decision. You will feel uncertain. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something new. So the goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to keep moving with it, because movement creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence, and confidence allows you to make stronger decisions. So wherever you are in the process, the goal is not perfection, it's movement. And that's very important, because obviously, as you already know, some of these roles are very competitive. A lot of physicians are trying to shift into different roles. And so having a growth mindset, knowing that you can learn new skills as you grow and develop, knowing that you are not born with all the innate skills that you need, that challenges and setbacks are just important to growth and learning as successes. That's what's going to make this transition successful. You need to keep trying. You need to be consistent and persistent. And don't give up. You need to learn. And you need to gather more evidence so that you're more aware of the options that you have. That's very important. I'm going to share a personal example of my own pivot, because my pivot was intentional and strategic. At the time when I transitioned into non-clinical medicine, I didn't have a clinical job anymore. And that's because I was hospitalized for a catastrophic event. So I really had to be very strategic and intentional in finding a new job. I also needed to prioritize my health. I needed to prioritize time and flexibility to recover and heal. And I also needed to have time for my family. And I needed to have financial stability with the medical bills that I had. So I had to be very strategic. I started to interview other physicians and learn about utilization management. I started applying for different utilization roles that I felt were a good fit. I started to read about and learn more about MCG and Interqual and CMS guidelines. And what is utilization management? What is the purpose? What do I do as a medical director or physician advisor in utilization management? What are the main goals of utilization management? And as I educated myself more, I started to realize that utilization management would be a good fit for me in this season of life. I also started to strategically apply for roles in other fields as well and research and learn more about pharma and biotech. I applied and did a sub-internship to learn more about pharma and biotechnology and to introduce and learn new skills for that industry, including research and clinical studies. As I was learning, I was becoming more confident in my ability to transition. I started to see the different mindsets and transferable skills that were needed for each role. And that allowed me to really become better prepared for applications, for interviews, and successfully negotiating and securing a new job. This is important because without a strategic 90-day plan to get started, you will stay stuck and you will not be able to transition successfully into a new role. And that causes frustration. But with the help of a coach or mentor and following this strategic plan, you can successfully transition and pivot into a new role. Remember, though, that the transition takes time. The average time to transition or pivot into a new career takes 18 to 24 months or longer. So you have to be patient and you must be consistent. If you're just starting, begin with the Burnout and Career Reset series. If you're gaining clarity, the Career Pathways Intensive is your next step. And if you're ready to execute a real transition, the Career Pivot Intensive is the best fit. Check out the different options in the show notes and check out my website, pinnaclebusinessacademy.org, for more details about the different options to jumpstart your career pivot and transition.
Thank you for listening to the Mindful Practice podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, you can find free burnout and career clarity resources at pinnaclebusinessacademy.org. And if this podcast supported you, please consider subscribing or sharing it with a colleague who might need it. Remember, you are more than your white coat. You are not broken, and you are allowed to evolve. Until next time, take care of yourself, not just your role.